They once seemed like the perfect couple. On the surface, their lives mirrored a picture of success and happiness. Two influential figures, a luxurious home, and a storybook marriage. But behind closed doors, everything was unraveling. Whispers turned into arguments, and secrets slowly surfaced. No one expected their divorce would spark a courtroom drama that would divide a nation. Before we dive into the twists and turns of this unbelievable real-life legal battle, take a moment to subscribe to the Verdict Diaries, where the stories you hear aren't just headlines, they're the raw truths behind them. Join us daily as we explore shocking cases and emotional verdicts that change lives. The courtroom was silent as the case began. On one side sat Elena Turner, a prominent civil rights advocate and successful entrepreneur. On the other, David McAllister, a high-profile tech investor with deep political connections. What started as a standard divorce proceeding quickly escalated into something far more contentious. At the heart of the dispute was not just wealth, but a foundation they had built together, one that supported underprivileged communities. Elena claimed David was secretly moving money out of their joint accounts, trying to devalue the nonprofit they had co-founded. David countered, accusing Elena of using the foundation as leverage for a bigger settlement. Tensions soared as both parties brought forward an arsenal of evidence. Emails, financial reports, private messages, all laid bare for the court and the media. The press circled the courtroom daily, eager for a glimpse of the case that had suddenly become front-page news. Protesters lined the sidewalks, some in support of Elena's cause, others defending David's reputation. Then came the turning point. Elena's attorney revealed a whistleblower testimony. An anonymous employee from David's investment firm testified that David had authorized a series of ghost donations, funds channeled to fake nonprofits under the foundation's name, diverting thousands away from the cause. The courtroom gasped. Elena broke into tears. David's face turned pale. But David's legal team didn't back down. They presented surveillance footage, secretly recorded conversations, and confidential board meeting transcripts. They painted Elena as manipulative, someone who orchestrated the case from the start to gain public sympathy and strip David of his business holdings. It wasn't just about a marriage anymore. It was about trust, deception, and a legal system being tested on all fronts. Judges deliberated behind closed doors. Legal analysts across the country debated the implications. Meanwhile, the world watched, waiting for a verdict that could reshape how public divorces and shared charitable assets are handled in court. And this was just the beginning. As the second week of the trial began, the courtroom buzzed with even more tension. Reporters filled every seat. Legal experts filled news channels, and online debates flooded social media. The divide between supporters of Elena and defenders of David deepened. This wasn't just a divorce. It had become a social spectacle. The judge, aware of the media frenzy, implemented a gag order on both parties. But the damage had already been done. Public opinion had taken sides, and every new revelation was fuel to the fire. Behind closed doors, Elena's legal team worked relentlessly. They subpoenaed offshore bank records and exposed a web of shell companies connected to David. Each company seemed to siphon money away from their non-profit foundation, which had helped fund education for low-income children. David, now cornered, took the stand himself. Calm and composed, he spoke about the stress of being married to a public figure, about sleepless nights trying to manage their image, and about how Elena's ambition had pushed him to the edge. He claimed the ghost donations were accounting errors, oversight, not malice. The courtroom watched closely as Elena's expression changed. It wasn't rage or victory, it was pain. Whatever love remained had long been buried beneath layers of betrayal. But now, the emotional cost was visible. Even the jury looked visibly uncomfortable. But then came a twist no one expected. David's attorneys introduced a private agreement signed years before the marriage, a document that superseded their original prenup. It had never been filed with the court or made public. The agreement allegedly granted David sole control over all financial decisions related to the foundation. The date on the document, 1 week before their wedding. Elena denied ever signing such a thing. A handwriting analyst was brought in. The analysis? Inconclusive. Now, the trial took a darker turn. Allegations of forgery, manipulation, and psychological abuse became central. Elena's team presented a series of emails showing how David isolated her from major decisions in their joint ventures. One even included a message from David to a board member stating, "She just needs to smile for the cameras. I'll handle the rest." By this point, the courtroom had become a battlefield, not just of law, but of reputation and moral ground. Every statement, every glance between the former couple was dissected by media and the public. Outside, protesters held signs demanding accountability. Some supported Eleanor, calling her a voice for women's rights. Others stood by David, claiming he was a victim of a targeted smear campaign. The judge warned both parties that the tension in the courtroom was reaching its breaking point. After the private agreement's questionable authenticity was revealed, the focus shifted to whether Eleanor had been coerced or deceived. A forensic psychologist was called to testify, someone who had reviewed years of interactions, messages, and therapy notes between the couple. Her assessment was chilling. She described a long-term pattern of covert emotional control, subtle but deeply damaging. According to her expert testimony, Elena's autonomy in business and personal matters had been steadily chipped away over time, masked by gestures of love and grandiose gifts. In short, it was psychological abuse wrapped in affection. This revelation changed the atmosphere completely. Spectators, once split, now leaned heavily towards supporting Eleanor. The idea that someone so outwardly charming as David could manipulate his partner so effectively struck a nerve, especially in a world more aware than ever about emotional abuse and control dynamics. But David's defense wasn't over yet. His legal team brought in a former employee of the foundation, a financial officer, who testified that Eleanor had full access to all financial records and had even signed off on the shell company arrangements at one point. They submitted emails with her digital signature and messages that seemed to show her involvement in the very transactions she was now calling deceptive. Elena took the stand again. Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of carrying the truth. She acknowledged the emails but claimed she had trusted David implicitly, often signing documents without reading them thoroughly because she believed in their shared mission. "I didn't know I was signing away my rights. I was signing because I trusted the man I loved." That sentence echoed through the courtroom. It was the kind of raw honesty that pierced through legal jargon and reached people's hearts. The judge ordered a brief recess. Outside, the media circus continued. Legal analysts debated whether trust was a valid defense in a multi-million-dollar financial dispute. Social media split again. Was Elena careless, or was she a victim of manipulation so deep it left no visible trace? When the court resumed, both legal teams made their final evidentiary submissions. The judge, weary but resolute, the courtroom was filled to capacity as the final day began. The media booths were buzzing, reporters whispering into microphones, while families, students, and curious citizens crowded the public gallery. This wasn't just a high-profile divorce case anymore, it had become a symbol of something larger. David's attorney opened the closing argument with sharp precision. He painted a picture of a man betrayed, insisting that David's actions, though flawed, had always been in service of building a legacy, one he had intended to share with his wife. Yes, mistakes were made, the lawyer admitted, but not crimes. He urged the court to see the prenuptial agreement as valid, the financial dealings as clever, but not deceitful, and Elena's claims as fueled more by emotional regret than legal wrongdoing. To the defense, this was not abuse. It was a breakdown in communication, not character. Then it was Elena's turn. Her lawyer began not with legal codes, but with Elena's voice, literally. A short audio recording was played from one of her therapy sessions, where she had spoken about feeling invisible in her own marriage. The courtroom went silent. From there, the lawyer wove a narrative both emotional and grounded in evidence. Every document signed in haste, every account hidden behind a shell company, every seemingly loving act that served to isolate Elena was laid bare. She trusted the man she married, the attorney concluded, and that trust was weaponized against her. The judge called for a short recess before delivering the verdict. When everyone returned, the room was electric. In reviewing the testimony, evidence, and legal precedent, the judge began, this case stands as one of the most complex marital disputes this court has seen, not only in financial scope, but in the emotional and psychological intricacies presented. He paused, glancing at Eleanor and David. The court finds that the prenuptial agreement was obtained under circumstances that compromised informed consent. Therefore, it is invalid. Gasps erupted from the crowd. In addition, assets concealed through the foundation and shell companies are hereby deemed jointly owned and are subject to equitable division. David slumped slightly in his chair. Elena closed her eyes, a single tear escaping down her cheek, not from sorrow, but from overwhelming relief. Outside the courtroom, crowds had gathered. The moment the verdict was announced, cheers rose from the people who had followed the trial like a national event.